Welcome to another Ronel Talks Money show. Now, today we are going to do another book review. And was when I first saw this title, it immediately speaks to me, Midlife Money Makeover. And I thought, so what is this midlife all about? I definitely want to know more about it. And we are fortunate to have the author Kim Potgieter with us today, who will tell us more about this book and what you can expect and what you can learn. And then I also, just before I introduce Kim, just want to remind you, please subscribe to the channel and go to the link in the description below where we have our monthly giveaway competition. And you will be able to win one of Kim's books, The Midlife Money Makeover. And she's also going to give you a journal that will help you to basically work through this journey. So Kim, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thanks, Ronel. Thank you for inviting me on.
And I think you should maybe kick off and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, thanks. I am a financial planner. I have been for the last 13 years. I have a passion to help people with their relationships with money. So I don't think I'm the traditional financial planner at all. My background actually is psychology. And then at the age of 37, I came into the financial planning industry. It was something for me from my early 20s. I wanted to be in the industry, but I didn't really know how to do it. And I went off on another career. And then I decided that I wasn't going to leave the rest of my life without coming into the industry. So I studied, and coming into the industry when you're 37, it's quite a late start. But what I did was I came in with a whole lot of wisdom about life, and I knew what I wanted to do. And I think what I've aimed to do is to come in and do it quite differently. And yeah, I'm loving working with people around their relationships with money. I mean, just a funny story. I thought I was going to become a psychologist and I was going to help people with their relationships with money. And, going through all of the thinking, I had this aha moment. Nobody goes to a psychologist to talk around money. They go to a financial planner. So that was what really confirmed for me that this was the industry I wanted to be in.
No, I think that's such an interesting journey. And I think if you really think about it, there's, in terms of money and money mindset, so it's such a big correlation there. So I can definitely see how you can help so many people. But Kim, tell us a little bit what inspired you to write this book.
So Ronel, my previous book is called Retirement, Get More Meaning from Your Money. And I wrote that 5 years ago. And that was very much for people coming up to retirement and how do we plan our retirement to get the most money and life we can out of our money. And in the 5 years, I've been meeting a lot of people and I keep getting I keep saying the same thing to me. If only I'd started earlier, if only I thought like this earlier. And yes, that's what encouraged me then. I thought, well, I'm coming into midlife. I'm 53 this year, but I started writing the book a few years ago. I'm going through the transition myself. And I wanted to help people really, not carry on with their relationship that's maybe not serving them. So I thought, well, let me start in a younger market, the midlife market. And with that, I started doing the book. Again, in the book, I share a lot of stories. So it's actual client stories of how they've done it. And yes, a lot of my learnings along the way. And in midlife, there's a lot of, I think, introspection work that you start doing, and you start thinking about life differently. And I really think it's a great time to pause and reflect on your life and hence your relationship with money. And that's why I wrote the book.
Oh, yes, I love that. And I think what actually, when I first, like I said, saw the cover of the book, it was definitely the word midlife that attracted me. And I thought, okay, what is this all about? Because how do you really define or describe the word midlife? Is it a certain age? Is it a phase? Because I know when I was in my early 50s in the corporate world, and I started to, question kind of where am I going with all of this? What do I really feel passionate about? A lot of people said to me, you are experiencing a midlife crisis at a very young age. So maybe you can give us a bit of your thoughts on how do you define or describe midlife?
Okay, yeah, there's quite a lot of conversations we can have around that what you've just shared, and it's something that I've chatted to quite a few people about. The first thing is a few people that have read the book, because the book's only been out for the last 2 weeks, many much younger than midlife. I always say midlife is from 45 up, but I've had a few much younger people read it, and they say, but Kim, this book talks to us. It's really if you're anticipating change. So if you're going into a situation where you want to make some change, I take you through, or the reader, I take them through a process of how do you do the change, and how do you find more meaning and purpose at the same time of living a life where you can earn money. And so, yes, the book applies to people much younger, but for me, it was important to put the word midlife because, as I said to you, I was going through the transition and I was meeting a lot of clients going through the transition. And I just feel like so many people, like you just said, say midlife crisis. It's not really a crisis if, in a way, you can do it the right way. What it is a great opportunity to take the wisdom that you've learned from the years before and actually fine-tune it into a life where you can add significant value to the world. And I think when you are going through it, there is changes that are happening to you, and how you do it is so important. So, I more think it's like a rebirth, a reinvention that you come out of. And as you said, I mean, you did yours in your early 30s, coming out of the corporate, finding what it is where you wanted to make a difference in the world. And that's what I'm encouraging people to do. I'm not wanting them to say, well, when I get to retirement, I'll start living the life I want to do. When I get to retirement, I'll do this. I want them to say, no, today, not tomorrow, today, I'm going to start making each day count and live my best life.
Now, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that speaks to something that when I read the book, you mentioned that I don't want to sit and watch my investments rising. I want to create all these experiences. And I think that talks to enjoying your money. And how important is it that you can enjoy your money? Because I think sometimes people are so busy making a living and trying to, climb the corporate ladder and all of these. And people often don't sit back and reflect and just say, but am I really enjoying what I'm working for?
So the process that I love to do with clients is a process called life planning. And I'm very much, if you're going to look at your money, you need to at the same time also be looking at the life that you're trying to create. So it's what you're saying. I mean, if you can't look at life and money together, okay, then you can't see how the two are working together. And really money is an enabler of your life. And I find so many times what we do is we either have a money conversation or we have a life conversation. And I see the value to having a life and a money conversation together. And hence why in the book, I refer to it all the time. So it's all in balance. There's no good going out and absolutely having all this fun and enjoying your life and spending all your money. And you get to 58 and you go, oh my gosh, I don't have enough. What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying the conversations need to be happening at the same time. And you need to always be balancing it. So again, still doing your investing, making sure that your money is growing, but at the same time being able to enjoy your life. So it's not waiting. Again, a sentence that I hear so often is, when I get to retirement, I'll do that trip. When I get to retirement, I'll follow my hobby that I want to do. And yeah, I do think we as people are changing, and that's not the life we want. That compartmentalized of learning, then working, and then going to leisure. I think we want to mix it all together. So yes, I'm not encouraging you to spend all your money at all. What I am encouraging you to do is to have experiences and not necessarily to be waiting till the one day, but in balance, working with your financial planner. So it's a sensible way of doing it.
Yeah, so it almost comes back to budget for the things that you really love to do and that you really enjoy, and cut back on the things that's not that important to you. And it's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. And I mean, you know, in the book, I talk around, you know, I believe people should know what their values are and what their highest values are in life. And if you can become clear on that, you'll also realize that what is important to you and what isn't important to you. And I mean, I meet so many people that often are wasting money on things that are really not bringing them the joy that you're talking about. But it's just because they haven't actually thought through what it is they really want.
No, absolutely. And the one thing that I experience working in the financial world, and I'm sure your experience is very similar, is that talking about money is still taboo. I think yesterday I did another interview, and we said in that interview that I think the two things that people avoid the most talking about is death and money. And yeah, and I think there's obviously, I think especially with you, with your psychology type of background, there's obviously a lot of things kind of leading to people being afraid talking about it. But you've also spent a chapter in your book talking about courageous conversations and encouraging people to start, talking about money. But what would you say, or how can people overcome that fear or that challenge in terms of talking about money?
Yeah, and it's so true what you're saying. I mean, people will talk about anything else but money. And you know, Ronel, it's actually taking yourself back to, mainly it's in our childhood. So it stems so much from some of these money messages we were given. So we were, you know, I mean, we were given money messages by people around us, and that's why we think it's taboo to talk about it. You know, you don't talk about your money, and yet what that's done is this commodity money that actually enables everything we do, but we don't even know how to work with it. We don't know how to emotionally deal with it. I mean, most of us have attached so many emotions to money. I mean, what does money represent in our life, but we don't even think about it. We just actually do life without saying and stopping ourselves and saying, hang on, is this true? What you know, or is this just a belief that we've got? And I mean, the research that I've done shows that most of us formed our relationship with money by the age of 7. And yeah, you would think not, but that's when we formed our relationship. So it's actually saying, first of all, just accepting, I have a relationship with money. I mean, most people I speak to, when I tell them they've got a relationship with money, they go, really? I say, yes, it's actually one of your longest relationships you're ever going to have. I mean, from the time you were born until the time you die, you said about death, we're planning our money. So let's get friends with it. I mean, so we spend so much time not being friends with it. We spend so much time not talking about it. And my encouragement, and that's why I say have courageous conversations. You do need to be brave to start them. I think if you've got children, it's a great place to start having these conversations with your children, and real conversations, not conversations around necessarily what the stock market's doing, you know, straight away. It's more talking around, you know, what money does, how we earn it. And in that way, you get people to be more comfortable. So you start with your children, and then couples. I mean, when you're in a relationship, you know, we know the research, and we know the findings that a lot of people get divorced over money conversations because they're having them when they're fighting about it. So find neutral ground and discuss maybe even just what your childhood experiences were with money. And then that way you can start seeing where a lot of those beliefs come from. And yeah, it just starts becoming part of your conversation. But you do need to be brave. It's so ingrained in us that it's not tasteful to talk around money, which is the biggest lot of rubbish.
Yeah, and I think it also touches on education and exposure, that when you deliberately go out to educate yourself about money and investments and all those kind of concepts, as well as expose yourself a little bit to those, then I think your confidence grow as well, because you don't longer feel that kind of overwhelmed and, people just, your planner throws all these words at you and it just
jargon,
start this foreign language. And I think the more confidence you get, the easier it will also be to talk about these things and to ask the questions and to understand kind of what your planner, or if you are doing a course, whatever, to understand what they are trying to tell you. So it's actually, I think, not that easy. It is just kind of almost taking action and, try to, talk about it, feel more comfortable talking about it. But then something else that it was also interesting when you said that in the book, because it's also something that I spent a lot of time on as part of my Ronel the Dream Foundation. There you said in the book that dream and imagine what is possible. And I think that is also because sometimes people think, money is so evil and money is not good and you shouldn't focus on money. But if you really think about it, there's very little of your dreams that you can realize without having some kind of money. But then again, there's also the reality where a lot of people's dreams are getting shattered, and especially I think during this pandemic time. So what would your advice be for people? How can they start dreaming again and realizing their dreams?
Okay, yeah, quite a hard question, but I'll do my best to answer it. Really, we all need hope. If we give up hope, and I speak to a lot of people now who things have really got hard and tough for them, and they say, well, where do you have time to dream? But I think that glimmer of hope always helps all of us. It's how we're humanly designed. So again, so many times when I speak to somebody, they say, well, if I hope and I dream, I'm going to be disappointed if I don't get it. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But if you don't hope and dream, there's no chance you're going to get it. So to start, and I mean, I know I've mentioned it in the last question, it's really to understand your relationship with money and to say, I mean, I was being interviewed on Monday for a newspaper article, and the lady was saying to me, from her young age, she's been taught that you cannot have money and creativity. So she chose creativity. So she's chosen not to earn money because she chose the creative route. And I said, well, where's the truth in it? Surely you can have creativity and money. But if you keep telling yourself that you can't have your creativity and you can't have money, Ronel, it's going to be the truth. We are incredible how we always can prove ourselves right. So for somebody whose dreams have been shattered and they're coming out at this time and it's a harder time, it's kind of to have a clean slate, to try and leave some of that baggage behind of where things did go wrong. Still create a vision of what they're trying to achieve, because then they know where they're going to put their time and their effort and their focus into, and have that dream and now start putting the steps in place to be able to get it. And yeah, I mean, it's not easy, and I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's just so easy, have a vision and you're going to get it. It's a lot of hard work that goes into it. But it's way better than absolutely spiraling down and potentially going into a place that I see a lot of people in, quite a depression and a slump. And because when you're in that stage, there's little chance you can get out, because it's just so much harder then. So keeping yourself as positive as you can in the situation really is your only hope to being able to get through it.
Mm. No, I like that. And I think there's what I always say to my clients, there's always hope. It doesn't matter, how dark your situation might look like. It's more important that you start taking action and you start taking those small steps to kind of move in the right direction. But I think what...
And Ronel, sorry, I just interrupt you. And you just said the most important thing is the small steps. So many times when I speak to people, they just see the end picture and they don't realize that there's lots of little tiny steps to get there. It's the same as compound interest when you're investing. So it's not to straight away like be so overwhelmed that you can't get there. Break whatever it is your plan into little steps. And when you feel that achievement, when you've achieved one, then you're encouraged to go to the next one and you're encouraged to go to the next one. So sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it's similar to, kind of when you want to lose weight and you have lost that first kilogram. It's the same kind of, where you feel so motivated and ready to go. And I think with money, it's the same, because that's what I did again in my book is I've basically talked about the comparison between physical fitness and well-being as well as financial well-being. And with finances, it's the same, it's that kind of once you have managed to save up that 1,000 Rand, then you are so encouraged and you are just kind of keen to get to 2,000 and to 5,000. And those are the things that's really motivating you. And that is what is getting you to that end goal. So it's so important to focus on that. But I think there again, it comes back to how important your mindset is in terms of money. And it's almost that the one cannot go without the other. And you also talk in your book about your mindset is creating your money habits. So maybe you can also just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting the parallels that you and I are finding and the similarities. I mean, because for me, my relationship with money, I've always had this mindset, okay, of abundance. So even probably when I didn't have a lot of money, I always felt like I had abundance and I would always have a lot of money coming to me. Whereas when I meet a lot of people, they have a mindset of scarcity. And they have a mindset of that they're not going to have. And I think it's just important to be able to question what your mindset is. And if your mindset, and if you continually, we have these thoughts, this radio station that's going in our head all day, every day. And if our thoughts are, I hear people, I'm never going to be successful. I'll never make money. And you actually hear them saying it. And if you it's just a question of stop yourself and question your mindset, because your mindset is going to sabotage you every time if you're saying negative things about it. So to get your mindset right, for me, the first step is just to acknowledge that you want to change it. Because for a lot of people, they won't even acknowledge that they want to change it. Because once you know you want to do it, then you have a chance of going out there and changing your habits. But otherwise you can't. And another concept on this mindset, and it goes to you sharing about your exercise, I also compare it in my book, because that's been a harder area for me. I've had a good relationship with money, but maybe a harder one around, exercise in my body. And importantly there, it was really coming to terms with the little incremental changes that I was going to make were going to have a long-term effect. Mm-hmm. And when it's a relationship with money, it's kind of getting out of that instant gratification that you've got to have stuff. I've got to have this now, and if I don't get this now, then I'm not going to feel this. And once you've managed to get that right, and that's bringing in investing habits and putting money away for another time. And then you feel that sense of absolute, I don't know, when you have done it, that you're so proud of yourself. And then you've got this freedom to choose. But if you never even allow yourself to feel it, you're not going to know how great that feeling can be. And yes, it can be better than a new pair of shoes that you feel like you have to have there and then at that moment.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. And I think it is so true. And it's sometimes just to also, I think, just to sit down and reflect a little bit, just to really think, but how do I really experience it? How do I think about it? How do I feel about it? What is kind of my real financial situation, to go and also do the numbers and have a look for yourself. But you've obviously been now in the financial services industry. You work with people's money on a daily basis. So if you have to think about practical money tips that you can give for people, especially people in their midlife phase or age or whatever we want to call it, what would those tips be?
I think the first place, and we were talking about it earlier now, is to have that courageous conversation with yourself. As you said, you have to come clean with yourself. Most people, when you even want to talk about it, they don't even want to go there. So it's actually having that conversation and saying, like, how much debt do I have? How much assets do I have? And what am I spending every month? Surprisingly, not everybody knows that, because they're on that hamster wheel and they're going on the treadmill, and they don't stop even to look at it. So it'd be my first one, is to have that courageous conversation with yourself. And my second one is always to get a plan. I am so surprised at how few people have a plan. And that is a plan for your life and a plan for your money. And if you have a plan, and that being, you know what you're trying to achieve, and you know what you've got, and then you know what you have to do to get there, you're already on a step closer to being able to have a life that you don't one day turn around and say, I'm so disappointed because I didn't do this and I didn't do that and I didn't get to be this. So having the plan is so important. Maybe because I'm a financial planner, but that's why I came into the industry. I really believe having a financial planner as your support, as your coach, is just so important, because when we do talking about money, we're emotional. And we don't always make the most objective decisions. So I think finding a reputable, certified financial planner who actually sees you as the client is vitally important in order to do this. And then lastly, it's just actually going out there, implementing it and enjoying life. So if you can get that right, then all of a sudden, money's there as that enabler, it's there as your friend, as opposed to you spending hours and hours thinking about how money is causing you this unhappiness, which it's not meant to do.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with that. But I think then if you think about people being kind of in their midlife, that's obviously also the people who really face this retirement readiness kind of reality, and it's almost at that phase or age in your life that you all of a sudden realize, but I don't have sufficient retirement savings. And I think that's another thing that people probably don't want to talk about is retirement, despite the fact that you all are going to face it at some point. So you obviously also deal with a lot of people who are in this kind of midlife phase, but not having sufficient retirement savings. So what would you typically advise people in that situation? How can they still do something about it?
They often come in and they hope that I've got like this magic wand and I'm going to do a magic wand and I'm going to take nothing and I'm going to make it into a lot. So yes, when you are in that situation, again, it's breathe. Don't go and look for something that's too good to be true, because if it's too good to be true, you're generally going to lose what money you do have. So it's vitally important that you make the right decision at that time. So when someone does come to me in that situation, actually they're their greatest asset. They don't have the assets of the investments that are going to provide them with an income, but they are going to have to work longer. That is the reality. And again, if that is the situation, I challenge them to look at how do they upskill, how do they learn more skills that they can earn an income for longer. No longer do people have, not a lot of people are able to say, well, it's 60 or I'm never going to work again and I have enough investments that are going to carry me through. Many people that I'm speaking to are reinventing themselves, and I talk a lot about this in the book, from about 55 into a completely new career that's going to stem them until they're 70. But if that is the case and they don't have the investments, they've still got to start them. So many times when I meet people, then they say, well, I haven't done it, so it's too late to start. It's never too late to start. You still need to then put away a portion of money. You need to make sure that you're going to be working for a lot longer. And I think you also need to look at different streams of income. You will be providing one income. You perhaps got a property that can provide an income, and you need to start getting this portfolio life mindset of where do I get different income streams from? How do I work longer? How do I actually build myself up that I can earn more income? Because unfortunately, there isn't that magic wand, and those investments where people are promised these unrealistic returns, they generally stand the chance of losing it. And I think in midlife, you don't want to make the wrong decision. You don't want to go and do something. Often clients come and they want to start a new business and they want to take all their assets to start a new business. And I always say to them, just remember how hard it is to get that back. There's got to be a balance between the two, and better to be using your skill than the assets that you do have.
I think it is just such a big concern for the majority of South Africans. But again, it comes back to that courageous conversations, and people sometimes just need to face the reality and rather do something about it, even if you just have 2 years before retirement. But it's still better than going into retirement having absolutely nothing. I think the other thing that you also talked about in the book, which is very relevant at the moment, especially after this lockdown period and the impact it had, is you were talking about what if I lose my job or my company. Now, this is, again, it's such a difficult situation to be in, but I think it is a very sad reality that a lot of people have to deal with. And quite often it's not something that they have done wrong, it just happened to them. So what can you say to people in this situation? How can they kind of overcome it, or what can they do to make the best out of a really bad situation?
So Ronel, and I think what's happening with a lot of people, because I'm having these conversations with people, we don't know when things are going to change. Now, we've been told and we know things are not going back to what they were. So again, when this does happen to you, and I've seen people lose their jobs, their businesses, what they do is they don't necessarily change their expenses at the same time. So they carry on living the life that they were leading in the hope that when things get better. So a lot of people have already started eating into savings and investments that they had because of the situations that they've been in. But often I find they haven't changed their spending to go with it. So they've kept their lifestyle the same, and yet their income's not coming in. And I think it's not probably, you need to face it, that you need to change your expenses. So for some people, it might be taking kids out of private schools, getting rid of expensive cars, even looking at downsizing homes, because the longer you keep your expenses so high is the more you're eating into your capital, and then it becomes so much harder. That said, again, you need to keep that hope you and I have been chatting about, because you need to try and stay as positive as you can so that you can see opportunities, because you need to be looking for opportunities all the time of what else you can be doing. And again, also with a lot of these businesses, I understand it's not people's fault that the pandemic came or changed it, but we still also need to pivot and change what we've been doing for this new world that's coming. So again, it goes back to a lot of introspection work, looking at what skills you've got, what the world needs, and how do you bring the two together, and having a plan and of what you're going to be doing. And chat, use all your contacts that you can. Go out there, don't be too, I don't want to say ego, but don't have too much pride, and be too proud that you can't go and ask people for help, and you can't go and get advice from people, and you can't go learn more things. So it's really having that curious mind to go and see what else you could be doing, because you have to work longer. That's the bottom line. And finding out what you can be doing is vitally important.
No, I think that is such important advice. And I think it's also for people to realize that quite often things are happening for a reason. And it could also be that this is kind of something that's sending you on another path, but that is maybe the path that is closer to your purpose and your passion, and something that you actually might enjoy a lot more doing. And it's just to kind of remain positive and try to make the best of whatever is coming up, and really just kind of look for new opportunities and see how you can do something different, think a bit out of the box. And I think that is also what we see currently a lot, is that people want to immigrate, and it's almost sometimes as if this illusion of much, the grass is much greener somewhere else, and but still kind of like certain kind of a certain mindset or certain habits or whatever, a different location is not necessarily going to change that. But I think you also in your book talk about immigrating and what are the financial things that people also need to consider. So maybe you can also just touch a little bit on that.
So now I'm just going to go back to, and I'll come to the immigration. You said that sometimes when these things happen to us, we don't know that they're going to maybe be better for us. And we might look back and say how much we learned. And the one exercise in the book I actually share is my life timeline. And normally when I've been at my lowest points in my life, when things have really been hard and challenging, is where I've grown the most as a person. So that goes to that mindset that when you're in those situations, and when people are in the situation where they are right now, this is the most important time then to do the introspection work so that you can come out of it much stronger. So just the message to your listeners, it be there, sit there, don't fight it completely, but realize if you can do this work, you can come out of it much stronger than you went into it. And again, it comes down to your mindset. So that's important. And then, on the immigration and the change front, I mean, what most of us are looking for is we want to change, but wherever we go in the world, we go with ourselves. So again, I'm saying you need to do the work, because whether you live in South Africa or you live somewhere else in the world, you take yourself, you take your stories, you take your mindset with you. So that is important. But for people that want to immigrate, I mean, it's to make sure that the opportunities really are there, that are much better, that you have something that you're going to, it's expensive living in another country. See it as an adventure. If this is really what you want to do, then it's an adventure that you're going on. But yeah, I mean, have the right bases in place. Many times we're running away, and just to answer that for yourself, are you running away? And what are you going to? So many times we will run down the country and say what's bad about the country, but have we thought what we're going to? And if we thought through exactly what we're going to and what it looks like, then I think you've got a plan and you might be making the right decision. But if you're just going to run away without a plan, you're going to go and face other stuff there too. So again, I mean, we've said it a few times, it comes down to your reasoning and to your mindset around doing it.
No, I like that. And then I want to also, I know both of us are working a lot with money, with women in the financial space as well. And again, yesterday, when I've looked at the retirement reality report that was issued, it actually reflected that the retirement readiness gap between men and women do not only exist, but it is actually widening, which is so concerning if you think about all the effort and everything that's been put into women empowerment and uplifting women and getting women to a better position. But I also experienced that women tend to be much more scared and afraid talking about money and thinking about money and, investing and all of that. What's your experiences and what are the things that you would say can really help women to change their mindset about money, their habits about money, and just their financial position in general?
So the biggest thing I think comes from us as women wanting, or first of all saying that we're not good with money. I mean, the amount of women that I meet and then you chat to them and say, well, I'm not good with money, so I just don't do it. Okay. I mean, obviously, I am really, really encouraging women to stop saying that because it's absolutely not true. There's no reason that we're not good with money. In fact, we actually are known to work really well with money. So it's to stop saying that, first of all, and if we can do that, because then we'll be open to hearing. Because what happens is if we say we're not good with money, when somebody's trying to teach us, our ears are blocked. We can't hear anything. It's like blah, 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 blah. And then it's actually to then go out and learn about it because it's not that difficult. I think a lot of that jargon is to confuse people, and it's actually quite easy to do. I mean, if you spend less than you earn and you put some of it away, compound interest is going to take care of it and it's going to grow. I mean, that's how basic it can really be, but we overcomplicate it. So for me, that's one. And then my other one, and this is a hard one for us as women, everybody else seems to come first. So whether it's our friends, whether it's our children, our partners, so what money we do earn, we tend to want to give it out. And, my thing is you need to look after yourself first, because then you're going to be a much better role model. You're a much better role model to your children. You're a much better friend to have around. So looking after yourself first, and then you can look after others, and creating those kind of habits can really help women. So my main one is for women to stop saying that they're not good with money, because they really are. And then, it's to find whether it's a coach, whether it's a financial planner that's going to work with you, that's going to speak your language. Women, when they come in to speak about their financial plan, maybe want a different conversation and to stand up and say that's what they want. And when somebody's trying to give you a whole lot of jargon, to say, I really want to be able to apply it. And I think in that way, women that's the only way we're going to close that gap. We can do all this talking, and we can do all this talking about not earning as much, staying home with our children. And then again, also when we come into relationships with our partners, having those courageous conversations and saying, well, if I am going to stay home with the children, I still want a portion of my money, our money invested for me in my name. Whereas a lot of women feel that is, oh, well, then that shows that I don't love you. That shows that I don't trust you. In the meantime, it's just fairness, and it's fair that you as a couple then work that way, and that you have those kind of conversations.
No, I totally agree, and I think it's that kind of, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So first look after yourself, and I always say to people, just remember that nobody else, not your partner, not your employer, not your financial planner, nobody is going to take better care of your financial well-being than yourself. So first, kind of take responsibility, take ownership, and really just go out and make sure that you can that you can start dreaming again, but that you are also in the position to realize those dreams. But Kim, I think the book is full of a lot of wisdom. So I'm going to leave it to people to go and read it and really go through that journey. But I want to just touch on a last question. What would you say, what would your biggest message be for people reading this book?
So first of all, my hope is that they read it, that they see themselves as important enough to give the time, because most of us, we're so busy with everything that's urgent, that self-care and actually stopping and pausing to reflect on ourselves, we don't give ourselves that present. So my wish would be that they would actually give themselves the present or the time to read it. But it's more than reading it. It's actually reflecting. And that's why in the book, I have all these midlife reflections to do. And I do have, if you go to my website, you can download them all. And I have the opportunity of buying the journal. I want people to do the work. I want people to answer those questions for themselves, to start having those conversations, because that's where the real magic's going to happen. That's where the real change is going to happen. You can read all these books, and if you don't actually reflect it back to yourself and relate it to your own life, that's when you can start taking those steps to make the changes. So, Ronel, that's what it would be for me, is to actually do it way more than just reading it. It would be to actually take the action steps by doing the exercises.
Okay. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today and just telling us a little bit more about your book. We really appreciate your time and also sharing some of your knowledge and experiences. And then to the viewers, I hope you have enjoyed this discussion. I want to again encourage you to please go and subscribe and also enter the book giveaway competition. We are going to give away one of Kim's books, Midlife Money Makeover, as well as one of her journals. And then go, and I'm also going to share the link where you can buy the book. I will encourage you to go read it. It really isn't complicated. There's a lot of real life situations that you will be able to relate to. And it's not only for people who are in that midlife age bracket. I'm also not yet there, but I could relate to what Kim was saying in this book. So go and buy this book, read it, and then, as Kim said, take the action steps and implement it, and make sure that you can create a life where you are doing well financially, but that you are also in the position to dream again and realize those dreams. Thank you for joining us, and then we will see you again at the next Ronel Talks Money show.